Blog Talk Radio. Greetings and welcome to the Sales Sense Reality Talk Show with your host, Mike Krause. Mike has sold over $100 million in sales and offers Fortune 500 strategies, tactics, and tools to sales professionals and business leaders. He created this show with one thing in mind, for sales professionals to share their secrets with each other. Join us every Wednesday at 12 to 12:30 Eastern Time, or sign up for updates on Mike's mailing list at salessensesolutions.com. Mike appreciates you listening and wishes you good luck on your next sales call.
Well, welcome. It's Mike Krause with the Sales Sense Reality Talk Show. I'm very excited to have a personal colleague and friend, Jake Atwood. He's an author, keynote speaker, and founder of Ovation Sales Group, a Minneapolis-based sales training organization. Over the past decade, he has taught prospecting and lead generation skills to more than 25,000 sales professionals. What makes Jake so unique in the world of consulting is he speaks and acts from personal experience. He has made over 125,000 prospect calls, left over 30,000 voicemail messages, and sent over 1 million emails to find the best lead generation strategies. This is in-the-trenches approach, produces a methodology that is based on solid, practical application rather than just textbook theory. Dozens of Fortune 500 companies have sought him out for his ability to motivate and inspire people to stretch their capabilities. His blogs and sales articles are featured in countless websites and read by thousands of salespeople every day. And you can visit him at ovationsalestraining.com. Jake, good afternoon. How are you?
Welcome. It's great to be on the show. Thanks for having me, Mike.
Oh, I'm excited. As we all know, prospecting is the hardest thing about sales, but most rewarding. And I'm really excited to learn more about some new things on the street, because I always learn every time I speak with you. First, tell the audience a little bit more about Jake and yourself, and go from there.
Sure. I've been a sales trainer for about the past 15 years, but at heart I'm a salesperson. So, I think a lot of sales trainers out there can speak from textbook theory, but not from personal experience. And I know what it's like to feel the fear of cold calling and the frustration of objections, as well as what it feels like to have a successful process that gets you in the door with prospects and fills your pipeline with lots of qualified leads. About 3 years ago, I started a new company called BuzzBuilder Pro, where I thought, couldn't we take a lot of the things that we're all doing in sales, making cold calls and trying to reach people, and automate it inside of a software package? And so that's what that is all about. But not here today to talk about myself or the company, but to simply share with you some best practices we've found in the salespeople I've worked with and what we've seen work best with reaching out to prospects, getting through to decision makers, and actually getting them to agree to meet with you.
Absolutely. We can do all that activity, but until the rubber meets the road and we actually see the prospect face-to-face or eye-to-eye, we really are spending a lot of time, and I'm a big believer in investing time, not wasting time. So what are some current trends that you're seeing out there to share with the listeners on what's working out there? And let's just start with overall approach. What are some things that are do's and don'ts?
As far as approaches, email is working, and it's definitely an emerging trend. I'd say it's so much as not even emerging anymore. It's in the forefront, and it's the way that reps are getting appointments today. I spent 10 years teaching people how to cold call, and I'm the first person to say that, well, cold calling isn't dead. It sure is getting more difficult every year. And I think a lot of people have simply adjusted by making more cold calls, which leads to more frustration. And I found that it's time to change our approach. And whereas several years ago it was all about picking up the phone and leaving lots of voicemails, now it's about using the right tools to send emails out and even coordinate other marketing efforts like social media in with that in tandem. So I'd be happy to share some email marketing tactics with all of you today. And these are tactics that are not designed to be used so much by your marketing department as they are by individual salespeople and entrepreneurs.
Absolutely. So what are some things, maybe we can send some information out to the listeners that request it, but what are some key words or buzz builders out there, like your company? What are some things that get people to open that email instead of just going, oh, boy, here's another email that I'm just going to delete?
Sure. Well, actually, why don't I do this first? I'll talk about what I find does not work, and then I'll share what does work, since it's important to know both sides here. I see a lot of mistakes made as far as how salespeople have tried using email. And the first mistake I see they make is that their emails are simply way too long. And we think that the more information we give out, the more reasons there will be for the prospect to be interested. As a matter of fact, that's the same approach we take in cold calls, I find, too. Make these calls, and we give them this 30 or 45-second elevator pitch, and who's got time to listen to that whole thing? And I think a lot of us, again, if we're asked what the purpose of our call is or the purpose of our email is, we'd say it's to generate interest. It's to give the prospect a reason to be interested in me. And I don't think that's the case at all. I think that people are not listening for a reason to be interested. I think the opposite. They're listening for a reason not to be interested. And to give you an example, let's say you get home from a long day of work. You come in the house, you got a big stack of mail on your kitchen counter, and how do we read our mail? Do we go through every single envelope, open it up, read top to bottom with every form letter, and try to figure out a reason to be interested in their offer? No, of course not. What we do is we take the mail, we peek inside the envelope, maybe in that little window, and if we see anything that gives us permission to throw it away, we take advantage of it. So again, we're not reading it, we're really filtering it, right? And the same is true for how people read emails or even take our cold calls. When they get an email from us, they're breezing through that email looking for the first thing that gives them permission to delete it. So one of the best practices is the thought that the less you say in an email, the more reason there is for them to return your message, to call you back from that or to reply back to the email. So curiosity is a big factor here. So I've got 3 key things you want to focus on in every email message. One is curiosity. Again, less is more. Don't give away your solution. So, for example, a lot of us will talk about our solution and talk about our products because we think that the more they know about it, the more they'll be interested. And it couldn't be further from the truth. So let's say, for example, you sell payroll solutions, right? A lot of times we'll go into that email saying, we offer a payroll solution and it's better than everybody else because of this and that. And the second you frame your email as being about payroll, unless they're in a mode where they're trying to buy a new payroll system today, they're going to delete your message. Or let's say you sell recruiting systems. You're a recruiter or headhunter, and you're asking them if they've got anybody they're trying to hire. Well, if they don't currently have any new hires open, any positions open, they're not going to return your call or email. So I think a lot of us will focus on our product. We should be focusing on their business instead. The second way to then really give yourself some traction in these emails is through relevancy. So the more relevant the message is to them, the more reason there is for them to be interested in whatever you're talking about. So let me give you an example of relevance. How about industry relevance, right? If you can break your emails down into vertical segments where you've got one just for the manufacturing industry, one just for telecom, one just for software. And really you don't have to alter your emails that much other than to perhaps reference a specific challenge within the industry or even name drop a couple examples of other companies recognizable that you're already working with that they can relate to. And then again, once you've referenced, we're working with XYZ company within your industry to help them, let's say, generate more revenue or help them reduce operating costs. You don't have to go into how you're doing that. The way they're going to find out how you're doing that is by replying to your message, and that goes back to curiosity. And then the third rule I have for email is consistency. A big mistake I see a lot of people make is how many times we send out one email message to the person, they don't reply back, and we call it good. We're dead. Email is not an event. It should be a recurring system. It's a drip campaign, right? By nature, I find that the least amount of emails you want to send out to a single person is a series of 3 emails over about a 1-week period. So you want high frequency as well as that relevancy and consistency. So frequency could be another rule as well. So generally what I do is I'll set up a series of 3 email messages, and I'll send them bite-sized pieces of information in each email. So over the course of 3 emails, they get the story I'm trying to tell them, but I break it into bite-sized pieces. And again, the curiosity factor is a big thing here too. So sometimes the more information you withhold about yourself, the more reason there is for them to get back to you. So I can go into more detail there, but I don't want to ramble on too much, Mike. Jump in if you have any thoughts on this too.
No, absolutely, and I've used your techniques over the past, and they work. because I always believe in the 85 or 80-20 rule, and I'm thinking it's 90-10 now. 10% of our sales force produces 90% of our revenue. And a lot of stats that I see, and I know that you see as well, Jake, state that 85% of salespeople only call once, 85% of people never follow up. So just like what you said, email campaigns are not an event. It's a daily activity. You just don't go to the gym after making your New Year's resolution once and go, I'm set for the year. It's a consistent behavior that needs to be drilled down to your entire sales team. And if you're out there by yourself as a salesperson, you need to hold yourself accountable to that. I feel that happens all the time. And here's the thing. Your prospect knows already that most salespeople don't follow up. So that's why they're not going to respond to this one email out of nowhere. Don't you agree?
I think so. In fact, we've done a lot of tests. We found that in a series of 3 emails, guess which email gets the highest response rate? It's not email 1 and it's not email 2. That third email gets a higher response rate than the first 2 emails put together. I think by email 3, you know you mean business. And you've made an attempt where most salespeople would have given up by now. And frankly, I think people appreciate that persistence. They know that if you've got something that you firmly believe is going to help them, then if you're persistent enough to get the message in front of them, then they know you mean business. And again, we're not being overly persistent. We're not going to badger them. I don't want you to email people 3 times a day for 3 weeks in a row. That would be overkill. So what I find, again, let's send out 3 emails in about a 7-day period, and then you can throttle it down from there. Then maybe it's once a week for another 3 weeks, and then you move on to once a month for the next 12 to 18 months. And the question I'd ask everybody out there is, do you have your own lead nurturing campaign? Do you have what I think of as a simple keep in touch campaign, where every month you've got something new, you can email all your prospects, and it could be a good article you came across, it could be a case study or a white paper, it could even be a tasteful Dilbert cartoon that you thought would be relevant to their situation. So even entertainment value plays a big part in these nurturing campaigns. If you don't have that, then we're in the same situation where we just hear from them, not today, and we never call them again. Well, not today doesn't mean never again. It just means not today.
Absolutely, and I believe in that humor does help, like you just stated, tasteful humor. And I just sent someone a 2-minute video on change, and they opened it and they said, this is a great video. It was not my content. I found the content. I forwarded it on to a prospect. They opened it up, and they thought it was the best thing. And I, of course, give the next step. I go, share with the rest of your sales team. And he did, and they all loved it too. And now that I'm attached to that email, I'm the resource, and they're seeing value. They're creating value. But going back to one of your original statements on the approach, most people go in and start talking about themselves, and they start not even caring about the prospect. And that is like 1981 style of selling. That just doesn't work anymore. You have to become a resource. You have to become available to people, and they have to see value into you. So there's no question about that.
I like that 1981 style. Yeah, it's time to put away the powder blue suit and the metallic briefcase and and step up into the current era. You're right.
And email is the way to do it, and the consistency that your service does, because I've used it firsthand, is just you set it and forget it, kind of like the rotisserie commercial there. But it's can you walk through a little bit more about the automation, because everyone's always looking to automate things, increase efficiencies, automation, make sure that we're doing the consistent messaging, which I know firsthand. It drives me up the wall when I'm working with a large corporation and I get their signature line, and every single one of them is different. Well, what does that state to the company? What does it state to the prospect that you're reading? Like, they're not even on the same page with their signature line or their logo, and everyone's doing their own thing over there. I mean, how are they going to handle my account? So what are some things, I guess, that they can do to be a little bit more automated and consistent?
Well, and that was the question I asked myself a few years ago. I looked at everything I was doing and my clients were doing, and it was all manual follow-up. There was no communication going on unless we picked the phone up and made a follow-up call or manually sent out an email, and so I looked for different ways to automate this. You can automate this to a certain degree through Outlook, but what you're really going to need to do if you want to automate the email process in lead nurturing is you've got to find an email marketing tool BuzzBuilder, of course, is the one that I created, and so I'd say that's one you should look at. But if you're a small business owner, you've got just yourself, there's a lot of other tools out there, too. There's tools like Vertical Response or Bronto, and those simple email marketing tools that you can use to send out these automated recurring email messages. It's referred to as an autoresponder. And all that means is you can program a series of, let's say, 10 emails that go out once a month. You plug those into the system, and every time you add a new name to it, those folks automatically receive those emails at those predetermined intervals. So that's how BuzzBuilder works, and then we've also got lead scoring built in, which all that means is every time a person opens your email, goes to your website, forwards a message, reads an article you sent, it scores points for that. So it starts to paint a picture of who your best prospects are based on who's done the most with your email communications. So it's kind of their digital behavior, if you will, on what they've done. If you've got a situation where you're using Outlook right now, I think a lot of us are familiar with the idea of saving drafts with an Outlook. What I recommend you do is come up with a series of email templates. And when I say template, I don't mean a really nicely designed template with pictures and graphics and headers. We find in all of our studies that a nice, simple, text-only email outperforms the most nicely designed templates 5 to 1. That means you get
Absolutely.
5 times greater response rate if they don't think it was a marketing department that sent it, if they think it was an individual that is a sales rep who sent it out themselves. So don't worry about knowing HTML and all that garbage. Just write yourself a simple, very conversational email template. And by that I mean it says, "Hi, Joe. Here's the purpose of my email." And again, I'm going to forward everybody at the end of this call here to buzzbuilderpro.com, where you can download an email template that will give you guidelines on how to write your emails for these different campaigns. And it's a free template you can download. So it's buzzbuilderpro.com. But what you can do is save these as drafts inside Outlook. And then what I'd recommend is that you come up with a consistent process for yourself, which may say to you, let's say every Monday morning you come in, you go into your database, you pull out 30 contact names with email addresses, and you take about 20 minutes, and you send those out either via a tool like BuzzBuilder or via Outlook. And then you've got to schedule yourself a reminder if you're using Outlook on when you want to schedule email 2 and email 3 to be sent. Again, the advantage of using a tool like BuzzBuilder or another email marketing tool is that whole process is automated. There's nothing to remember to do next. It just takes care of it for you.
Absolutely. And I think one of the coolest things about your system, because I used it, is and use it now, is that when they open the email, I get an email. And I got to tell you, sales to me is always about messaging and timing. No matter how hard we try, and managers probably wouldn't like to hear this, and if the prospect really isn't in the zone, just like you stated in the beginning of this call, if they're not looking for that new hire today, it doesn't matter. It's about the perfect timing. But it's so nice when I get an email back from your system stating that Jake Atwood just opened my email, and it has the phone number in there, and I'm able to respond. And that person, and they kind of like, "Oh, I was just thinking of you." And I was like, "Oh, really? I was just thinking of you." And it kind of puts us on the same path of communication. If you want to talk a little bit more about that, I know it's one of the secrets in there, but I think that's one of the neatest things to put us on the same page of communication.
Well, and that's, I think you're talking about the instant notifications. And so every time a person's on your website or checking you out or forwarding a message or opening one, it'll send you an instant notification. Because let's face it, in sales, it's all about getting them while they're hot, right? So if they're showing enough interest to go to your website, they deserve a call. Now you're going to know it and follow up with them on the spot. But beyond that, another tactic you can all use, it goes back to the whole concept of lead nurturing, is what can we do to get them while they're hot? What can we do to keep in touch with them if they're not hot right now? And how many times have any of you followed up with somebody that asks you to follow up 6 months from now? You follow up with them in 6 months only to learn they've already made a decision to go with your competitor a month earlier, right? And if you ever feel like you're always a day late and a dollar short, I hate to say it, but it's your fault. It's our fault as a sales rep, because what did we do to make them remember us over that period of 6 months? Why did they not call you first when they finally were in decision mode? And again, selling is not a situation that happens when you have a conversation with somebody. Usually by the time we have a conversation with somebody, they're already halfway into their sales process to begin with. They've already started thinking about it and thinking about vendors and researching it online. Now, a lot of us don't have the power to put up a website with our company and have power over all the internet marketing. We do have the power, though, to send out a simple nurturing campaign to make sure that we stay top of mind with them. And that way, when they're finally ready to make that decision, hopefully we're the first ones that they think of. And all along the way, we've been delivering some great value to them. And so they know that we've got some expertise also. We've built our credibility. So one quick thought here, I'm sure you got some thoughts on this too as well, Mike, is when you send this information to people every month, here's a mistake I see made a lot, is the follow-up emails don't have any value whatsoever. Their nurturing campaign is basically a series of emails that say, hey, Joe, we talked 3 months ago. You weren't ready to buy. Are you ready to buy now? And
yeah, you ready?
That suits your purposes, but what does it do for the prospects? So, again, can you find some good content to send them? And like what you said earlier, Mike, it doesn't have to be your content. It can be content you found on BNet or Harvard Business Review or Forbes or Inc. magazine. There's a ton of killer content out there if you just take a few minutes and go look for it. Curious, Mike, have you found any other sites where you've seen some good content that maybe they could pull from?
Well, one thing I know you and I believe in is using Google Alerts. I try to automate my life. So when I'm on a hunt for a new prospect, I will put their company name in there, and then I'll say, hey, I just saw you a press release, or I just wanted to let you know, congratulations. And also I'll do industry. So let's say, for example, I was in merchant services. I'll have that, and I'll add that to the email too. Hey, but those Google Alerts to me is one of the most powerful tools for free in the world, I think. I mean, it's just incredible, and I know you use that a lot too, right, Jake?
I love Google Alerts. And again, when you find an alert, then you can simply copy it, paste it into an email, and send it off to your clients and prospects. Another thing I use a lot is RSS feeds. So if any of you don't know much about RSS feeds, all that is let's say you're on a site like Harvard Business Review, and they've got weekly blogs or articles they release. You can subscribe to those, and then in your browser, it'll give you a simple breakdown of all the articles. You can quickly browse through them, and then you can see if there's any that get attention, and you can email them off to that person. You know, what I'd recommend, though, is when you're thinking about content, don't just think about content for your business. And again, an example is, let's say you sell payroll. What has happen is all the articles we send them are about payroll. And if you're emailing a CFO, how often do they spend their entire day thinking just about payroll? You know, they're thinking about cost containment, they're thinking about automation, they're thinking about process improvement, they're thinking about a lot of things other than your product. So the articles don't even have to really relate to your business as long as they're relevant to your prospects. And a great example is I work with marketing managers all the time, and my focus in BuzzBuilder is email marketing, but I don't just send email marketing articles. One of the tools I send them off oftentimes when they first start engaging with me, one of my first nurturing campaigns is to send them a link to a tool called Website Grader. And what it does is they can plug in their website address. It's a free tool online. It goes out, it crawls their website, it comes back with tons of great recommendations for how they can improve their site and how they can get more traffic to their website. And they love it. It doesn't promote my product. It doesn't even tell them what I do, but it forms a connection with them because I brought something of value to them. And that's what it's all about.
Absolutely. And it's about creating the value. It's not about you, the Mr. or Mrs. Sales Rep. It's about the client. And honestly, if you spend the rest of your life just doing it, what's in it for you, you're probably not going to be successful at sales. And also one of the neat tools that Jake has on his website is email checker. How many times do we send out an email and then it bounces back 2 days later and we thought that person sent that, but it was a dud email? He's got a really nifty tool that just you put the email address in there and it tells you if it's good or bad. So, and that's another way for you to create value too, right, Jake, to your prospects?
Absolutely. And again, I give that away for free. And so it's a great way for me to draw some traffic to my website. And you can think of the same kind of things in your world here. What could you create that you give away for free that would get people engaged with you and give them a reason to want to talk to you? And that old adage, I'm not going to do anything for you until you do something first for me, it couldn't be more true than it is today with prospects. And we really can't expect anything from them until we first deliver something to them. So I guess I get another tangent I can go off on, but you can fill in the gaps with anything you've got there, Mike.
No, go off on the tangent because, this is important stuff, but people are out there banging their head against the wall, and I like what you said. It's your fault. You have to take accountability. Oh, I'm not getting good leads, or I'm not getting return phone calls, or I'm not getting return emails. Well, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. It's you, the salesperson, that needs to control the sales process. So what were you going to say on your tangent?
Well, I thought we talked a lot about strategy as far as make it about them and make the messaging about them and make it relevant, all of that. I thought I'd get a bit more tactical and share specifically how you can do that. And I mentioned earlier a little bit on that, which was referencing other companies in their industry you've worked within, or you've already worked with. And that whole concept falls into the category of name dropping, or what some psychologists will call social proof. And so as an example, let's say you're contacting one manufacturer and you've already worked with 2 or 3 other manufacturers similar to them. If the companies are similar enough, you can reference them in the email. The question always comes up that prospects, or rather clients, ask me, should I reference other clients I'm working with? Is that going to be dangerous to name drop specific company names if it's a conflict? And my finding is about 99% of the time, you're going to have more of an advantage than a disadvantage referencing a specific name of another company you work with. The only time I would do that is if you knew for a fact that they absolutely hated XYZ company and they would never work with anybody who worked with them, or if in doubt, then simply reference the industry. So you could say, I'm working with another couple light manufacturers in your industry, wanted to discuss some things that they've done to help reduce costs as they go into 2011. And again, keep it very high level. So the name dropping works well. You can even get more granular. So this is not so much a large-scale mass campaign. This would be more granular. Another kind of campaign with email that works really well is to target specific companies with specific target events. So you can use different tools out there like Google News, and you can use tools like OneSource and others like ZoomInfo.com. That will give you some good background on different companies and initiatives going on and things that might be current events that you could reference that would trigger a response from them. So as an example, let's say they just had a huge acquisition and now they're trying to juggle different parts of the company and processes and try to merge that all into one process. If you've got a tool for that, then reference it. But don't reference your tool. Reference the fact that I understand you went through a recent acquisition with ABC Company and maybe in a position right now where you're trying to juggle multiple processes and build more consistency between the 2 different companies. We've got a tool that I believe can help you with this. When can we talk? And again, you notice that I left an air of curiosity. I didn't tell them all about the tool. I let them know that there's hope, there's a solution out there, but they've got to talk to me to get the rest of the picture. What you can do to take it a step further now is oftentimes you find that there's multiple people involved in these decisions, right? So it's usually not going to fall in the lap of one person to evaluate the entire thing and make the decision solo. One person might be signing the check at the end of the day, but they'll bring a lot of people into the conversation and figure out what to do. So if you can find out who 2, 3, 4 individuals are that are going to be involved in the process, then here's what you want to do. Email all of them simultaneously. Email them all at the same time, and then in the email, reference who else you're also emailing. So let's say I'm reaching out to John Doe, and I'm reaching out to 2 other people. In my first sentence to John Doe, I'll say, John, I wanted to contact both you, Mary Williams, and Don Johnson to talk about the recent acquisition with XYZ Company. And again, the first thing they're going to look at after the subject line is the first sentence. So if the first sentence doesn't draw them in, they're not going to read any further.
You definitely need that grabber. I mean, unfortunately, we have to shut down here, but I've learned a lot about strategies and tactics and tools here with Jake Atwood about keeping your message simple, relevant, and the timing of it. And you can use automation as your friend, not your foe. So I'd like to say, Jake, how can they get a hold of you and, shut us down with any afterthoughts?
Sure. Feel free to email me directly at jake@salescense.com. at ovationsales.com, O-V-A-T-I-O-N sales.com, and I'm happy to field any questions you've got. Thanks again, Mike.
And they can visit buzzbuilderpro.com.
They can also go to buzzbuilderpro.com if they want information about the email tool, so buzzbuilderpro.com. There's also a lot of free tools out there. There's a lead generation success kit they can download for free. It gives them dozens of different ideas we've talked about on the phone and then a dozen more that we didn't talk about today.
Oh, it's perfect. I'm excited, as always, to talk with you, my friend, and I wish everyone good luck on their next sales call, and thanks for listening, and tune in next Wednesday at 12 o'clock. Thanks, Jake, for your time.
Thanks again, Mike.
Have a good day now. Bye.
You too. Thanks. Bye.